then it was eerily quiet. And then my mind was kind of like, the head in the fishbowl.
Then it takes me into the bathroom and says, this is how you brush your teeth. Brush, rinse, repeat. Brush, rinse, repeat. Brush, rinse, repeat.
But there were two girls, and it was like, you'll have to give us a ride. You can't tell us no. You can't refuse us. He'll let us in his car.
Thoughts were all alone in this empty void. The head in the fishbowl.
This doesn't look right. They got close enough where he said he could see, their eyes and how intelligent they seem. This doesn't look right.
These gremlin-type creatures.
This doesn't look right.
No pupils, no iris, 3 fingers, 3 long fingers. And this is when the mental torture.
And then it was eerily quiet.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Hello, Rob.
Hey, Adam. Most of Adam, yes. How's everything been, man? It's been like 3 weeks since we've been here. I know it's been good. I'm inches away from murdering Windows forever.
Yeah. So I've heard.
We're still using it tonight, and I don't want to make it angry because we're relying on it.
You may have already made it angry. It's the ghost in the machine, my friend.
Yes, but
it probably already knows.
I'm making the big switch to Linux because I've had enough.
Yeah. You still got to get Skype to work on Linux.
Yeah, because Skype is a Microsoft product.
Which is going to be essential to us. The reason why we say most of me is because part of the reason why we have been gone from this studio for the last 3 weeks, although no one really could tell because, of course, we released the 200th episode and then I put out episode 200.5, which was interviews that I had done over the course of like 2 weeks. Of course, I had Peter Robbins, Soraya together, Guy Malone, and Chris Wolford, and Walter Bosley, which the Walter Bosley one was pretty fun for me because I ended up, for some reason, Pamela, the Skype recording program that I use at home, ended up not recording my voice. So this ended up being some kind of glitch that apparently is within a conflict of the realm with Skype, the version of Skype that it uses, and the version of Pamela. So I have scrapped that. I'm using a different program entirely now at home. So just got the home studio set up to where I really want it to be.
That happened once before, but it was with my audio, and it was my fault.
Yeah.
And what that means is then you have to sit here and re-listen to the podcast, and anytime there's an awkward silence, try to remember what it was you said.
Yes, I had 30, at least about 30,
and overdub it.
About 45 minutes of the interview with Walter. So I had to sit down and listen to it, and I ended up, figuring out I remembered kind of the questions that I had asked, and just from the context of what he said. And I had to go back and re-record it and then reinsert it in, which honestly, I think the whole process took me about 2.5 hours to do it, which really wasn't too bad, I guess. It's better than spending a whole day on it, but it was still just damned annoying. And I don't know, maybe it sounded better. I don't know. Because I think that there are some podcasters and some interviewers that will do that. They'll just he pointed out that Linda Moulton Howe, that's how she does her interviews, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. But it was, it turned out okay. And I was glad that it was only about 45 minutes instead of like an hour and a half interview like we normally do. I did have to edit some of it though. So there were some things that people didn't hear, but we kind of meandered in the last 10 minutes. So I kind of just cut those parts out just to for things to kind of make sense. Because there was a lot of questions, like I'm not going to record all these questions. But I think it sounded pretty well. So after that, also, last Monday, we're recording this on the 27th. Last Monday, the 19th, I had my gallbladder removed. And I had been living with this for about 3 months. Back in November, I started feeling like I was going to have a heart attack. Like I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on. So I went over to a one of those walk-in clinic places here in Hermitage.
Mm-hmm.
And they did an EKG on me, and they said, well, your heart is fine, but we found this little blip here. And this could either be that you have a blood clot in your lungs or you have gallbladder issues. So
you're praying for the gallbladder.
Yeah, I was scared as hell. So I went and had to I went to the emergency room, and they found out that it was my gallbladder. So then I had to get insurance. I had to go through all the chain of custody of your insurance so that they can cut it out. And so last week I had that done. And it's pretty interesting how they do that. What they do is they don't cut your side open. They do these strategic holes in your body. So on your upper chest, they put this little hole in you and they pump you full of air. And then lower on your stomach, they stick a little camera in your belly.
Into the air pocket they've created?
Into the air pocket that they've created. And they can see your gallbladder from there. And then they put 2 holes in your abdomen. I don't know which one is which, whether it's the upper or the lower hole. And they cut out the gallbladder that its attachment to the liver. And then they just they make another hole and just pull the gallbladder on out. Simple. Yeah. And I was pretty sore for a few days. I was down in Chattanooga for about 4 days. And so I was convalescing as the shit show was going on in this country about this whole shooting in Parkland, Florida. Now, I don't know what you've heard we talked about this kind of the other night when I came back. Have you looked into any more of it, or
not the details of the actual school shooting? The aftermath and how the different sides have taken it politically. I mean, you can't escape it. So obviously, I've been drawn into that. But yeah, that's about it.
Right.
Like, I don't know any details about I haven't heard any bizarre elements or anything like that as far as the shooting itself. Seems pretty straightforward. And
there was one thing, and I'm loath to play it because I'm sure there's a lot of other places that have played it. They were talking to this girl, and I guess this was a reporter that was the local channel, or maybe one of those reporters that just wants to get a story. They were talking to this girl, and she said that the shooter's name was Nicholas Cruz. I'm sure everybody knows this by now. But she said that she was in line with this guy. She actually looked at him and said, I bet you were the one that did it. And she said that while that was going on, she could hear shots being fired. Now, that's the only thing that was odd to me. I read somewhere today that supposedly a teacher had said that she had seen a guy in tactical gear that was shooting up the school. But I couldn't find this anywhere. I saw Chuck Baldwin, the conservative commentator, talking about this on Facebook today, but I couldn't find anything about this. Huh. So those are the only two, maybe one or two things that I saw that were kind of weird. The first one could have just been a mistaken identity, possibly, or the girl was mistaken.
Or just a timeline confusion thing in that sort of situation.
The clip was really strange because she keeps calling the guy sir. And it almost seemed like, to me, like if there was any kind of setup or the whole crisis actor thing, which this came into play with all this.
I'm sure.
It almost seemed like that one was set up to me more than any of the other ones. And it was just really bizarre. And I'm almost kind of just really ready to say I don't really know what went on there. But there's another weird thing, like the kid that shot up the school. He took an Uber to the school. And How did he have the AR-15 in the Uber with him? Did the Uber driver not notice that there was an AR-15 with him?
You can, I mean, a lot of gun cases look like just a big case. I mean, he could have told him it was a guitar.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, that's very possible. You know, if he had it in a case, yeah. But that was kind of a bizarre thing to me. But other than that, I didn't really see anything. The whole crisis actor thing came into play with this again because there's these kids that are seniors at this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School that these kids really got into the news. CNN was really pushing these kids really, really hard. So much so that they had a town hall meeting I want to say it was Thursday night, which I'm going to play a clip from here soon. But there was this one girl, Emma Gonzalez, that gave this really impassioned speech about gun control and really going after the NRA. There's this other kid named David Hogg, Hogg, which there was all this speculation online about him.
Yeah.
That he was a crisis actor. There was, they were saying that that he apparently had gone to CNN studios. His dad was an FBI officer. Apparently he'd gotten into some argument with a lifeguard last year and was on CNN for that, which was on the other side of the country in California. So that's just kind of strange and bizarre. He wasn't even involved in this town hall, which a lot of people have said was scripted, which, hey, probably was to kind of give some control over it. But I don't think there was really much that you could really not much that you can really do as far as, well, let me put it this way. It's basically the whole concept of like, don't let a good crisis go to waste kind of mentality. CNN was, like I said, they were really, really pushing these kids hard for whatever reason. So 2 things that I noticed with this latest school shooting. And I'm always trying to look past the gun issue, the gun control issue, because honestly and obviously, this is what comes up every single time we have something like this happen. And nothing ever really gets solved. Nothing ever really happens with the gun control issue for whatever reason. So, as I've said before in this show, I don't think that this is really about gun control. I think gun control is an element of it, but I think it's more about kind of this idea of strategy of tension, keeping everybody constantly on their toes. But there's also other agendas and other elements that I've seen. The first one is that there is a certain amount of push to kind of militarize and more make our schools more like prisons, in a sense, by making them basically armed camps. This is what you see with what Trump is talking about with arming the teachers, which I'm sure that you've heard about that too, Rob.
Oh, yes, I have. Yep.
Okay. So this is an element. That's almost something that you really can't. I don't know if that's entirely possible. I could maybe see the teachers being, if they wanted to be on a volunteer basis, to be armed and to be trained. But when we have teachers that can barely pay for their own materials, how are they supposed to pay for their gun or pay for training?
Right.
That's going to have to be something that if an individual teacher wants to volunteer, to be armed, they can do that. But they need to be trained by the state full money is not coming out of their pockets to do that. The only thing that I really said that I agreed with Trump about, because the same day the CNN did this town hall, he was talking with all these people, that the family members of the dead kids that were killed, and there were also family members of kids from Sandy Hook that were there too, and all these other teachers and administrators, some from DC and some from other places. And so he was making this forum, talking to them, and of course CNN had to get all snippety like CNN often does with Trump, and they focused in on his little piece of paper that he was holding, where it said at the bottom, it said, "I hear you," and they made a whole big deal about that, like, look how insensitive he is and all this stuff. It's just absurd. It's ridiculous. But anyway, what he said was, the only thing that I agree with what he said was, putting gun-free zone stickers on the schools is basically just inviting for someone with a gun to come in and do damage, basically. When I got an interesting thing I remembered when he said that was when I got an alarm system, the guy told me that one of the most important things is to have that little sign in your yard or the little sticker on your door, because that shows that there is an alarm inside. So that's the reverse of the gun-free zone thing. They'll come inside with the alarm sign. They'll say, "Well, this is protected. I won't try to rob this place." So there is a certain amount of just kind of simple psychology in that. So yeah, the first thing that I see is kind of a more militarization of schools, making schools more like a prison than they already are. That seems kind of scary and frightening to me. But there's another element, and I already talked to you about this. There's a pre-crime element to this too. Like, we can do something about these things because, apparently the shooter, Nicholas Cruz, had been reported to the police 39 times. They apparently never did anything about it. Blah, 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 blah. Now, there's a fine line between, seeing that someone is a danger and then misusing that. So I want to play this clip. I thought this was interesting. I think this is another agenda. This is from the town hall that CNN had, and they pull a teacher up to ask a question. And I thought what the chief of police, I think last name is Israel, chief of police of Broward County, I thought what he said here was very interesting. So I'm going to play this.
Comes from Jim Gard. He's a math teacher. He had taught 3 of the victims, and he has a question for Sheriff Israel.
Sheriff Israel, as far as I know, the FBI would be the expert organization and would have the experience and know-how to take tips, conduct an investigation, and conclude whether to act or not to act on such tips. It seems as though the FBI certainly had enough cause to investigate the case prior to the 17 murders. It's fair to say that people are disgusted with the inaction of this organization. Why were these tips considered unimportant enough to not have further action? Who would make this decision? As the FBI apologized for their failure to act upon these tips, who ultimately would be the person who decided that this now very relevant case was irrelevant?
So, Sheriff, obviously this is a question for the FBI. I want to point out that we did invite the FBI director and somebody from the field office in Miami to come here tonight to answer your questions. They declined, but their excuse is that this is part of an ongoing investigation. But if you would address what you can about the red flags, not just the tips called into the FBI, but also the visits by the police to the shooter's house. How does that, Dana's talking about getting those red flags into some sort of system to prevent that person from being able to buy a firearm. How would that work? It obviously didn't in this case. How should it work?
Yeah, let me start out by saying that if we had this conversation 2 or 3, 4 years ago, I would say the primary group of people, the primary industry that's going to protect our children are law enforcement. Now I actually believe it's the lawmakers. Things have to change in Washington, D.C., Tallahassee, and state capitals to make these changes. The Broward Sheriff's Office, we received tips, numerous tips on this killer. Some we answered by phone, some were out of state, some we went out there. Our command staff are actually looking into some of these tips to make sure we did everything right. If we made a mistake, I'll act accordingly and deal with it. The person responsible is the agent or the detective or the person who received the tip and didn't exercise their due diligence and took it where they needed to be. All that being said, what I'm asking the lawmakers to give police all over this country is more power. In Florida, we call it a Baker Act. It allows us to take an individual to be against their will, involuntarily, to go to a mental health facility and be treated. What I'm saying is if a police officer that we pay a good salary to keep us safe feels that the totality of circumstances, the computer, the bedroom, the pictures, the photographs, speaking to the friends, if we feel the totality of the circumstances rises to the level where we're concerned this person might be mentally ill, we need the power to take every firearm they have away from them and bring them to a mental health facility.
39 visits did not meet that standard? 39 visits?
Okay, so then he gets into this argument with this Dana Loesch lady that's the representative of the NRA. But what did you think about that? When I heard that, when I watched that, my mouth came open. I was floored to hear that.
Yeah, well,
because there's a slippery slope.
There's definitely a slippery slope there, and there's two ways to kind of look at it as well. I mean, would it be effective? Probably, in a lot of cases. But is it ethically right? Does it stand alongside the Constitution, and the whole innocent until proven guilty mentality that we're so proud of in this country? I'm not so sure.
So Chief Israel says, what we need to do is give the police more power. That's interesting.
See, there's one thing about all of this that I do want to address real quick. And that's that I think whether it's arming teachers, putting armed guards and metal detectors in schools, giving police more power to, take a collection of circumstances and deem somebody a threat and haul them away. I think all these things are sort of a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. And I think people want quick answers and quick solutions.
True.
And I don't think that there is one, because I think that if you look at every other country in the world that doesn't have armed teachers in their schools or armed guards, that, doesn't have even stricter gun laws than us, that doesn't have all these other things, that they also don't have all these school shootings. So there must be something deeper that we're just not addressing or not looking into, because it's not an easy solution.
Right. It's much more complicated. Well, it's exactly what you hit the nail on the head there when you said that it's people want the cheap and easy solution, and that's one of the cheap and easy solutions. However, I could see in the case of a Nicholas Cruz, okay, we know he did this crime. We know with, hindsight is always 20/20. We know that he was a danger to others and a danger to himself.
I don't think,
and we know that he probably needed to be put in some kind of institution. However,
maybe bringing people in for like an assessment, if there was if there was a way to set standards for that, and there was a way to say, they failed this, they can't interact socially with other people, they're not capable, they need, some sort of rehabilitation.
Who makes that decision? And in the end, if they're going into some teenager's room and they're seeing maybe some kind of dark posters on the wall, or maybe that teenager is trolling on the internet and says, take something like the West Memphis 3, for example, that we've talked about a few times, how they were basically accused of this crime because they were weirder kids and they were put away. I could definitely see something like that being extended to where that gets abused as somebody that is not going to do that.
That's my point. I'd like to see a system that could do in effect what they're saying that can't be abused. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Just saying it like Chief Israel says, where he said we got to get the police more power, but also at the same time too, what if it's something that where they disagree politically, or it's someone that is an enemy that is against talks against the police in a particular community. Are the police going to misuse that and put those people away in mental institutions? Because looking at history, the Soviet Union put people in mental institutions that were dissidents.
Yep.
They actually did that. They deemed them crazy. So I could see that's scary. That's frightening. And this stuff gets applauded at this town hall.
Well, because we do need to do something to protect our children. And that's why it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, number one, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that children can go to school and be safe.
Well, there was a scare here, right?
There was immediately afterwards. Yeah, there was some kid got on social media and was
at one of your kids' schools
showing off. I don't know where he got the gun, if it was his parents or whatever, but he was showing it off on social media and making threats. It wasn't a direct threat towards the school, but involved students at the school. So the school ended up getting involved and shutting down a bunch of after-school functions and doing everything that they could that's in their power. But I mean, it's crazy that
right. The copycat effect always comes into play,
and it just keeps happening more and more. And that's the other thing. Like, we can't ignore this stuff, but at the same time, the more it happens and the more attention it gets, the more you're going to have kids out there that feel like they're, they don't have any control over their life, or they're depressed, or they haven't been properly diagnosed with, or maybe they have been diagnosed with something they don't have and they've been on medication, because God knows that happens too often these days too. And who knows what's going on with them, and they're going to see all this, and it's just a cycle.
Yep. It's a pretty vicious one. Well, on that happy note, we are going to talk to the guys from Cruzin with Steak.
Oh, I'm sure they'll have all kinds of fun stuff to talk about.
I'm sure. And we'll probably talk about this topic with them a little bit, but I want to get into where, how we've been on their show and now we're returning the favor and getting them on ours. So, guys, we'll be back. Oh, by the way, I don't know if anybody noticed Luke isn't here for episode 201.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling so well.
He wasn't feeling so well.
I tried to lie and entice him. I told him there was a metal band here.
Yeah, who was it that you said was going to be here?
I said Enslaved was here.
Enslaved? Yeah. I mean, what he said he sends me a text. He says, "Hey man, I'm just not feeling too great." And I text back, "Boo-hoo." He says, not trying to bail on you or nothing, dude. So you guys will miss Luke. But you know what? We might call Luke later on. There's a big possibility that might happen. So
we should to check in on him.
Just to check in, just make sure he's okay. Just to make sure he's okay. All right, guys. We'll be back with Cruzin with Steak on Conspirinormal. Welcome, guys, back to Conspirinormal, and we have on the line to help us usher in the 200s. We have Steve and James from, or otherwise known as Dave, from Cruzin with Steak on the line. And guys, really good to have you. Thanks for coming on Conspirinormal.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.
This is gonna be fun. We already were talking about the band Cinderella and Warrant and the 80s hair bands. So
and it was a psyop to push a transgender agenda.
yes, absolutely. We have figured it out. Maybe Rob and I can get the drummer for Cinderella on the show. Grill him about that.
Dude from Warrant. Like I was saying, he lives in my town. Old lead singer for Warrant. He does a 80s cover band in my hometown where I live in Cleveland here.
So does the lead singer of Warrant? Does he cover his own songs?
Yeah, dude, he plays. All those songs were like his back then. So he plays them all. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Carry Pie and all that shit. Dude. Yeah.
So it's really not even a cover band.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, there is a couple mixed in.
Like that's right.
Maybe he does a little. Maybe he does a little Quiet Riot or something. He sneaks that in there.
It's been years. It's been like, I would say almost. It's been over 2 years since I've seen him. I saw him at some sports bar randomly down the road here one day.
And you looked at him and you said, "Dude, that's the lead singer of Warrant."
Well, I've seen him in town. I mean, like I always kind of heard of the band. It's called Sunset Strip, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yeah, and I've always heard of them. And you hear these they're playing around, and then I hear that the guy lives in the town I live in here. I'm like, what? And then one night we were at this place right down the road, and they were playing there. It was the weirdest thing, man. Sports bar with freaking dudes from Warrant there. You know?
Did you go up and talk to him?
Mm-mm.
It was just too intimidating.
It was really weird. It was like their friends and family.
Yeah. Like his mom, you know?
Yeah, totally. It seemed like that kind of vibe. Like a private party or something. I don't know.
How we got on this subject, we were talking about Rob's 80s cover band, Cobra Kai.
That's right. We're playing March 15th, Twin Kegs 2 in Nashville. Come see us.
We need to get everybody, we need to get all Conspirinormal's listeners and Cruzin with Steaks listeners to come down to Nashville and just pack out Twin Kegs 2.
Well, I think the capacity is like 30 people there. So
it's called Normal Fest.
Yeah.
Our listeners right there, 30 people.
That could end up just being like when Great White burned down the
man.
Remember that? like they killed all their fans in Rhode Island.
I know people that worked with that tour and were like, you can't do that. You guys can't do this. This is ridiculous. And like they just kept going with the indoor pyro.
Yeah.
Why can't we light off fireworks in here?
What are you guys doing?
Dude, that was crazy, man. It was like, 200 something people that died at that thing?
Oh, man.
I've always imagined like the people that would go to that just to laugh at Great White, and then you burn. You burn horribly and you horribly die from burning to death. Like
you go to shame somebody and you end up dying.
I know, like, dude, it's Great White. Oh, I'm on fire. You know, it's just awful, man. I mean, I know. I'll probably get some emails about that. How dare you make fun of that? So
send your email to us.
Yeah, send it to Cruzin with Steak instead.
Yeah, we'll read it.
So, guys, you guys had us on back. When was that? Back in October?
Yeah.
The October 1 shootings.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The Harvest Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why is it that I have you guys on after every shooting now? Because now we got another one that we can talk about. But let's talk about you guys' podcast. Let's talk about how you guys kind of what inspired you guys to start it up. You know, talk about yourselves, guys. I want to know the audience to know who you guys are.
Well, my name is Grimsteak, or Steve. I'm 32 years old. I'm a Cancer. What
are your turn-ons and turn-offs, Steve?
Oh, everything. I like it all. You know, it doesn't take much. Turn off. Really shitty audio on a podcast. That's something like I have a major pet peeve when there's a lot of background noises or mouth noises, which we probably do a lot, but that's all right. I don't listen to our shows. But yeah, I just love podcasts. I fell in love with probably about 3 years ago, and me and James met, and it was a match made in heaven.
Oh yes.
Were there like birds chirping and just the clouds opened, and is that how it happened?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got in the podcast, I mean, probably around the same time. I've only been listening to podcasts for, maybe 4 years, maybe a little bit more than that. I came from finding audio. I never even, you got a podcast app on your phone, and I never even used it, like I didn't really care that much about it because I used to do design work and stuff. So I'd just be listening to playlists off of YouTube of music, and then I started going into like Coast to Coast and learning about stuff like that. And this was like 15 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of got hit to like the Fade to Black stuff. And then that sent me into the chat world. I never did like AOL chats. I never got online and chatted with people before. I had no need to, like it was, I just didn't really care for it. Then got in a Spreaker chat, and then it ventured out from there. Then me and Steve listened to Grimerica, up in Canada, those dudes, and and they started all they did was start a little like Google Hangout chat one day, and me and him were like the first people in it. So we started chatting like, from day one, and then a month would go by or something like that. And then we all listen to the same stuff. Steve turned me on to you guys, and then so I started listening to you guys. Excellent. And then it's just like a crazy circle of how it all went. And then and then a friend of ours from that show, Felix, does a lot of the jingles and music and stuff for Grimerica, and he wrote the intro. He does all our music on our show for all the skits and the segments and the intro song. Like he laid down the Cruzin with Steak, that jam, and then like that's when we were like, shit, we better buy equipment, and then so that's how it started, dude. And then like
you got forced to do it basically.
We got like kind of, we're like, oh my god, this might really be something, and then I think the original idea was just to bring on people like you guys. You bring on all the cool shows that we listen to and talk to you guys, and we get to hear all the people you interview. That's awesome. But I was like, what's a little different angle? Maybe bring on guys that do the shows and their experiences and their thoughts about some of the people they get to talk to and everything. Plus we get, now we have like our own, not our own thing, but just like we have Discord channel, we got like 30 people in there. So we have a group of friends that love coming on the show, and it gives them a voice to come on and hang out. And we do those crazy hangout shows, and things can get off the rails. You want to try to keep something going streamlined. Try that one. Oh my God.
Yeah. You guys have a very controlled chaos kind of aspect to your show. Like I've listened to your show before, and it's like a 5-hour long monstrosity, and it's like there's like five or four. There's like 7 or 8 different people.
Yeah, if we did those like live hangout, you can stream those online. But before we were doing these, we would do an interview. And then all of a sudden Felix started pumping us up with all these like segments. I was like, we do like a tech news, this, that. So then, but dude, all of a sudden that's how those shows turned into like 4-hour shows. All of a sudden everyone wanted to come on, and we started doing like 2-hour intros, and then like another 2-hour show tacked onto it. It was like, oh man, we're off here somehow, But if you listen to the shows, they do work. You're just spending a lot of time. It's a time invested to listen to something that long. My heart goes out to you if you've made it that far.
What's some of the people that you guys have had on other than kind of like the podcast hosts? Because I know you've had myself, you've had us, Soraya, Micah, you've had all those guys on, but what's some of the other people that maybe that don't have a podcast that one particular that might stand out in your mind that you guys really enjoy talking to?
We had Walt Thornhill on talking about with the electric universe theory. Him and David Talbot do a lot of work with that.
Yeah, if you go to the projectthunderbolts.info, like if you guys know about the electric universe, I'm sure you've heard of it, but
I have heard of it, but I'm not really sure what it is. I hear Soraya talk about it a lot.
Yeah, I know he's kind of into it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of it. I would say fan, whatever, proponent of it. I mean, nothing is really set in stone, but that's the one thing to me that's ever since I heard it years back, like of that, I guess you could say it's a theory, but the one thing I like about the theory is that it's like a crowdsourced, open funded project. So there's no like, university backed, like this is what it is type data being put into it. And I mean, but as far as the electric, well, at least the people doing the work, but the electric universe it's a different description of space, basically. That it's plasma, electrically charged ion. It basically, imagine like you had a map of the brain and you see all the neuro connections and everything as you zoom out. And that's basically what their version of space is, how everything's electrically connected. And even linking in some of the stuff with the past and some of the observed effects, and even with better equipment nowadays, they're using like radiography and stuff like that to test ions that come through, and they can have different telescopes, infrared telescopes. They can follow these plasma clouds and everywhere in space, basically. So I always say it, but it's the ether. It's like the everything. We talk about like consciousness and stuff a lot. I think a lot of that, some of these theories can get pretty far out there, but as far as a collective, as we all think, and people say there's like a data that always is, there always was, screen memory type deal. And I think that data is just stored, somehow consciously. And I would think it would be in this, they would say the ether. It's all knowing. It's always there. It's, but as far as connectivity throughout the universe, yeah, like I think they'd done tests and they call them Birkeland currents. And these currents rip across space, and then they basically connect planets. They've destroyed planet like Mars. Their big theory with David Talbot. He's the other half of the electric universe. When they formed the whole idea, he's more of the historian. So like you got like ancient cave art and depictions, like probably 12. That whole time frame, that whole 12,000 years ago. You might have seen them. I'd have to pull images of them up or whatever, but look like a little alien dude with spiky things on their heads and stuff like.
I know. Yep. Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about.
These things were being seen all over the world. Like even the Nazca lines look like the same type of stuff, all over the planet. And these, in depictions of cave art. So, what they were seeing, supposedly, was what was going on in the skies. And these Birkeland currents. Basically, there's a whole like second sun, the black sun, the Saturn. Like it used to be. There used to be like our planets used to be lined up a little differently. It used to be like Saturn, Venus, Mars, and then Earth. And then basically, as time went on, that's when the first, I'd say, our solar system, whatever version 1.0, as the planets grew and formed. They start, if you take magnets and you stick them together, there's that force, So, and this is the theory with the electric kind of stuff, you're trying to push magnets together, but it needs its space. So as they're pushing apart, the basically, yeah, they use these Birkeland currents. It's almost like welding. So they're shooting across like surfaces. So as Earth is getting further away from Mars, and Mars is kind of stuck in the middle of Venus, and then and the connection between Earth and Venus, that starts just ripping apart Mars basically. And there's a lot of evidence on Mars that shows like the type of crater-esque material, what would happen when you do have a positive and negatively charged areas of Mars. So like if you take they had a top view of the typography of like Mars, and it almost looks like a yin yang symbol, like as above so below, like a scalar wave going across the whole surface. The same amount of dirt on the southern hemisphere was ripped off on the northern hemisphere, and all that was blown out into space. And so there's a lot of evidence of that. The Mars scar, I think it's called the Mariner's Trench or something like that. Like the Mars scar. And all those were those old Roman gods, and the god of war, all that kind of stuff. That's where all that mythology comes from.
Right. And it sounds a little bit, there's an element of the Velikovsky theory in there too, about
definitely part of it. Yeah.
What did he say that Venus? He said that Venus was a comet, and that Venus passing by Earth is what caused some of the events of the Book of Exodus and some other biblical events, like the Joshua making the sun stand still, and then Venus moved into its new position. So yeah, it sounds like they're kind of building off that in a way.
It does, and I mean, which makes me think of like, is it just another theory? I mean, yeah, but at the same time, there's a lot of really smart people putting a lot of work and money into it. And
yeah,
I would just encourage anybody to go to the Thunderbolts project, on their site. I think it's thunderbolts.info. But
I'm gonna have to look more into this, because I always hear
4-hour documentaries.
Oh, Lord,
they can make more sense. That's why for me to try to explain this in 5 minutes, impossible.
Right? Yeah, yeah. It's really complex.
Yes.
What about you, Steve? What's some of your favorite guests on the show? Put you on the spot, man.
When we had Ren Collier on, I love Ren. He's actually been
Ren's an interesting guy.
He hangs out with us like just on random chats that we have throughout the week. He plays D&D with us.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
That was good things where it was like a show led to a pretty good friendship. Like it was pretty cool. And recently,
did you hear our show that we did with Ren on about communism?
Yes.
That's great. It's a great show. How much hate mail did you guys get?
Not too much, really.
That's good.
I got a couple of people that said that it was weird, but yeah, there were a couple of things that I had to that I just kind of had to differ with, but I mean, there wasn't too much that we really disagreed on,
Yeah.
I just don't know if Stalinist communism is the answer to the questions.
The way I see it, it could work good on a small scale in a small community, but it can't work with millions of people.
Sure.
There's no way it could work with millions of people.
I don't have enough faith in humanity for it to work for me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's true. Because
somebody will screw it up.
Or that one butthole.
Yeah.
So
he was cool. We just had we met a new friend, Marina Jacoby. We just had her on like a couple weeks ago. That was an amazing chat. She's kind of like into. When she was a little kid, she basically tapped into like channeling, and she ended up channeling the Nine. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Nine. She talks to Greys, which she calls hybrids. Like it's. she does a lot of work and she puts it all out there for free. So that's the only reason like I can really appreciate and respect her. Because it's not like she's a real salesman, you know.
Yeah, and she's just pushing like positive outlook on things, and that's kind of like when same thing with our show, dude. I mean, it's just we have a good time, and just trying to push a good outlook on life towards it, and have fun with it, man. Like, you know, and
there's debates about cryptocurrency that happen sometimes.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. I sat through that whole entire thing just to hear that one thing.
I'm sorry.
And we were getting echo effect bad. I don't know where that's coming from, but
right now,
it comes and goes. It's weird.
Yeah, it's just real brief. It's kind of dramatic. I kind of like it.
It punctuates it, man. It punctuates the point.
The Ponzi scheme episode was one of the great hangouts for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to bed. Wild. Good night.
Oh, he lost it. And the funny thing is, he's all in the crypto now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ren was telling me that. A lot of people are really getting into it. I had somebody comment on the Facebook page, and they I think when we talked to Ren, and this guy comments and says, "Oh yeah, I'm so tired of hearing about Bitcoin on podcasts." And the episode that I just put up, our friend Guy Malone, yeah, he's gotten really seriously into Bitcoin too. A lot of people are getting into. Aaron David, he's getting into it. Like Aaron hardly posts an episode anymore, but he's seriously into Bitcoin. What do you guys think? I don't want to belabor it too much, but I mean, do you guys think that it's here to stay, or what do you think about it?
I think that the blockchain technology will be here to stay. I don't necessarily know if Bitcoin will.
Yeah.
I mean, you have guys like Flipify and their predictive programming and all that stuff, the web bots being able to say that like it's going to be like over 100,000, and there's wild predictions, but I don't know.
The world could end tomorrow too. Could predict that,
Taken down and destabilize entire country. Well, not we personally, but destabilize entire countries because they try to go off the petrodollar. Like, I don't think they're going to easily let a whole new currency just slip in. Yeah. I know I'm using ubiquitous they or whoever it is. But, dude, I just think the powers that be do not want any kind of alternative currency.
Well, it definitely does democratize currency in a way. I mean, it has a very, it really fits in. Well, Ren talking about it really fits in with some of his belief system, because it takes the power out of the elite and kind of gives it to the people, in a
very
sense.
Decentralized and
right.
If anything, I like the blockchain part of just that no middleman step,
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a need for banks, but it's just like when you're doing these transactions like that, when you got to wait on your money, I like the step that it's instant. I think that part, with the blockchain, I think is helpful in a way.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely an interesting world that we're coming into. I've been thinking about investing myself in it.
I just wish I understood it.
Yeah,
me too. We've done multiple shows on it. I've researched it, and I don't get it. I don't know where the backing comes from. Where does the value come from? I don't understand.
Our buddy Nomad says all the time. He's just like, so can you get Bitcoin without using your own money? Before you used to be able to mine it. Remember, a long time ago, you could almost create it out of nothing.
And people still do, but you need a network of dozens of computers computing it to compete and to be the first one to discover the stuff, and then it's divided amongst everybody. And
so right there makes you kind of scratch your head when you got to use real money to get into it. So that's what's kind of. But I mean, it's like with any investment, really. I don't know. You got to use your money. You got to buy into it. But I think with that stuff, you had like Ren was explaining, you want to invest into a particular company that has value. You know, like what if it's offering some type of service or good or added value, like a stock. Like you're not gonna invest in some shitty stock. So
right, but I still don't like. For me, it's the where does the value come from? Like I understand, like to use your petrol example, like I understand supply and demand and how those prices fluctuate and how, you know, why things are, you know, more now than they used to be. And you know, even the inflation that goes along with that. But I don't understand why a Bitcoin was worth $18,000 3 months ago and now it's worth $12,000.
Doesn't make sense. People just must assign it value. That's what I understand. That's why I'm not going to play that game. I just sit back and let the ride happen. I'm not going to invest.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I probably won't either. I don't know. I just have an IRA. That's all I have.
Well, like, you know, like I'm sitting here thinking.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sitting here thinking about it. But I don't know if I'm actually going to do it.
No.
Well, you have to. One Bitcoin's like $16,000, you know, but you have to buy it, you know, one piece at a time to get it up to just to get one Bitcoin. It's whatever percentage, you know, pennies of that Bitcoin, you know, you're buying every time.
Right.
Right now, Bitcoin is $10,669.
Okay. There you go.
So everybody who bought it at 6,000, like what, 2 weeks ago when it was, after it took that dip. Now it's been floating around between 10 and 12. But that's I'm with Rob. I don't understand who comes up with this pricing. Like who says it's worth that much money? Like I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're right, guys. It really does make you
I don't know
wonder.
if there's a hidden amount of how many were ever made or something like that too, you know? Like how many Bitcoins. I think that's what assesses the value.
Well, yeah, there's a finite amount of them.
Right.
So,
Anyway.
Aliens or something.
yeah, that's what it is. It's the aliens. It's got to be.
It's the Illuminati guys.
Illuminati, aliens.
You ever want to fund a black budget space program?
Yeah. That's
It is.
you know, it's the Kiwanis Club, one of those.
Totally.
The thoughts on what happened with this Parkland school shooting. We talked about this in the intro, which you guys haven't heard yet. But I was talking about some of what I felt the agendas were, and I feel like the part of the agenda is really putting an emphasis on pre-crime, and secondly, just making schools into even more of an armed camp than they already are. You know, kind of increasing this whole like school to prison pipeline that seems to be going on. What do you guys think about this? What happened? Have you guys been paying attention to it? Anything that you think is suspicious about it?
I don't think that we should arm teachers because, I mean, dude, how often are teachers getting arrested for banging their students and we're going to trust them with guns? Like we can't.
That's a good point. I haven't thought about it in that direction. Yeah.
Then you have to pay for the training of all them. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go so far as like some of these conspiracies are and just craziness. Like it was definitely a tragedy and, you know, people got shot.
Yeah.
I think that the FBI was informed several times and they didn't do anything about it. That's one thing I've been seeing, but it's like, who knows? Because I'll see that on like some kind of right-wing website and it's, what do I even believe? That's the biggest.
Right. And we talked a little bit about that earlier too. And it's like, the FBI was warned, but I don't know what they were warned and what they're capable of doing. What kind of evidence was there? Was it like, if there was no direct threats, they can't really intervene.
Yeah.
You know, they can keep an eye on them, but until they do something that's illegal, they can't apprehend somebody. So that's where that whole pre-crime sort of mentality that Adam mentioned comes into play. Like, at what point do you intervene and say, this person is dangerous, let's analyze them, let's pull them out of society, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the fact that they say how like the the officers that were on duty were doing nothing. They were just like hiding or something. They did nothing to engage. So I don't know, man. It's a sticky mess that I just don't want to get involved with.
Yeah, that whole like, what was it, like that school has a like do not arrest policy, you know, like where they were kind of letting dude, there's a pretty deep rabbit hole with crime and stuff like that in that whole Broward County area.
Yeah, man, that's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. that's
yeah,
that's County and
I get like. I'd have to look up some of the articles, but just last night we were kind of talking about it for a little bit, but how numbers and data and petty crime, even major crimes, rape, stuff like that, to pat down the numbers went like things went undone, you know, like in that whole county to lower the numbers, you know, and same thing with that school though, and having like a no arrest policy. Like if kids are getting in trouble for bringing like whatever, say they brought a knife or something, you know. But that's like a big school too, though. You know, like that's like a freaking college campus.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so I don't like how I think that these kids that are out there like making the news rounds, like they're definitely being weaponized by some media agency or some agenda they are being told to push. And they're just eating it up because they honestly, I feel in their minds, they actually think they're making a difference. And these kids don't realize what kind of stuff they're in yet. Like they're being used as pawns. And that's kind of sickening. Weaponizing these kids.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. Yeah, they're not going to be able to make any kind of difference. Like, it's sad to say, but no. Like, people...
In your 15 storming Capitol Hill.
It's not going to happen. And it's going to push gun sales through the roof this quarter. You could just watch it, I guarantee.
Yeah.
Like it's insanity.
Well, right after it happened, that Sunday after it happened, I was coming up here. I was bringing my car up here to Ross because I was having my gallbladder surgery the next day. And he was going to watch. That's the other thing. Rob's a really cool producer. He watches my car for me.
Yeah, I car sat.
Yeah.
Car sat.
And I turn it on to our local talk radio station, and on the weekends they just play, you know, just people that basically they're infomercials. But this was the gun show. I had never heard this before ever. And this guy's on there, this, you know, Tennessee Bubba, and he says, "Yeah, man, the sales of AR-15 since this happened, man, it's gone through the roof." And I'm just like, here we go again every single time. And it really, guys, it never ends with this stuff. That's why, in my opinion, I just don't think that any of this is about gun control. I think gun control is just another issue that is being used to just keep everybody in a state of tension. It really is.
I mean, I don't have a problem as far as schools. Like, I have 2 kids that are in school, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, yeah, arming teachers is. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of iffy. Why don't you just arm? Like, if it's gonna be that crazy, I do agree with like some of the stuff that people are saying. Like, we use. I mean, dude, there's cops that hang out at the grocery store. Like, why can't there be a cop that hangs out at your kid's school? And like, I mean, I have no problem with that. I guess you need more cops, but I have no problem funding an officer to hang out at my kid's school, dude. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and, they already have school resource officers, but
yeah, but also, why not get something as easy as a metal detector? Also, I don't care. I mean, let them walk through a metal detector.
All our school source officer ever did, he would break up fights and steal our weed.
Right. I'll take that.
That's all he did. I guarantee he was smoking that right after school.
Yeah. I gotta claim this for evidence, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but
dude,
I guess if you're gonna shoot up a
think about that. I could never see like that guy that was in my school like doing anything if there was an actual incident. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think you need actual well-trained people if you're gonna do it.
Yeah, and the other thing is, how is somebody with a sidearm going to go up against someone with a rifle or or a quote unquote assault rifle? How are they going to do that? And maybe they could sneak up on them or something, but how is that going to happen?
They'll be so unpredictable because it's just some kid acting on pure adrenaline.
Right, right, exactly.
It is kind of. I do get that though. Like you're in a fight or flight moment. You know, it's like, do I really want to run in this place with the freaking AR-15 going off? I don't know.
Yeah,
but I guess if I was a cop,
I only $35,000 a year. Like,
yeah,
he's not pulling any kind of huge bucks.
Yeah, they want this guy to be Rambo and save everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Go in and save the entire school. I see also as well. I didn't mention this in the first because I wanted to bring it up with you guys. What blew my mind, I had no clue. I had no clue at all. Somebody can walk into a gun shop or whatever. At 20, they have to be 21 to buy a pistol or a sidearm, but you can buy an AR-15 or some other kind of rifle like that and be 18 years old. That's it seems like that's just there's something wrong there. You know, and I had it put to me that an actual sidearm that if you get B-21 is because you can conceal it,
right?
Whereas with a assault rifle or whatever, obvious it's going to be obvious what it is. But
it was like if you went back to like what was it, like the 50s or 60s, and there was like this whole new thing that came out, the war on handguns, and that was going to be the deadly killer.
Yeah,
there was nothing wrong with long guns,
right?
And all of a sudden, so it's like it's just a cycle. It just keeps coming around again. And so now
to think about how there's a war, how well the war on drugs has gone. I don't know, like if you guys noticed, but yeah, had any kind of problem getting any kind of weed that's been illegal my entire life. So
yeah, it's gone so well. They've really kept those drugs off the streets, man.
Oh yeah, they've just it's worked great. So I don't see them making any kind of, let's say hypothetically they did try to ban guns or whatever. Like it wouldn't work. There's no way it would.
Not in America.
No, you'd be giving a new market to the black market industry, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is already there in many respects anyway. It would just further increase that, and the criminals are still going to get guns.
Yes.
I mean, somebody told me here in downtown Nashville, one of our listeners told me that, he saw this like 6 or 7 year old kid pull a gun on somebody across the street from where he worked. Like, what in the hell?
That's insane.
Yeah, it really is. So
times are strange, dude.
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of real solution that's going to come across. And Steve, you mentioned the kids. I mean, they are being used. I mean, what they believe and more power to them, that they're doing the right thing and they're convicted and all this. But right now people are paying attention. Wait till the news cycle moves to something else,
Yep.
Wait till Stormy Daniels tells all.
Yes.
Or bears all.
The next distraction.
Yeah, the next Russian collusion,
right.
story or just something.
They won't let it with that.
Right.
24-hour news cycle.
These kids are they're gonna be forgotten, I think.
Yep. No, I think that David Hogg kid is gonna have a nice career on CNN. You think he's got it locked in?
Right. Yeah. See,
I feel ashamed to admit this, but I'm sitting there on Twitter today, just like scrolling, and I just sat there reading like a whole thread between him and Alex Jones because like he agreed to go on Alex Jones's show before he actually knew who Alex Jones was or something. And
right.
And there's all this nonsense going on, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's just insanity.
Yeah. And it's like we're just caught between, most of the time the normal everyday person is just caught between these two different extremes, basically. I mean, we're caught between all this, and we're just trying to sit here and just like figure out just what the hell is going on. It's all just a big, huge distraction.
That's very true. And you try to think like how far back these distractions go. And then when did you think life was fairly normal? Was it the 80s when I had Cinderella on my wall?
Yeah, man.
It seemed pretty normal, man.
Yeah.
But,
things were simple.
But at the same time, that's just us being old. I mean, I just turned 40, dude, Sunday, and like,
congratulations, brother! You crossed the threshold.
Yeah. and yeah, it's been a shitstorm for 20 years, basically since 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a shitstorm when towards the latter half of Clinton as president, but
we didn't know about it. That's the thing. The internet has brought too many people.
Social media.
Where? Yes.
And the blatant just. Oh man, the weaponized. Yeah, the way they call it, the weaponized autism of social media, dude. and
it's on 4chan, man.
And they plant these seeds, and the seeds grow of conspiracy and the conspirinormal, as we would put it, right? And I think we can mention this to Brandon when we just had him about, Gordon, maybe conspiracy is the new norm, but they've always kind of said that though, like
right.
But
when I came up with that name, that was not how what it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
I was going to combine talk about conspiracy theory and the paranormal. But it's like the name of this show has taken on a whole new life, because that's basically what happened in the 6 years that we have been doing this show. That's what has happened. It's like conspiracy theory has just become normal.
Yes.
And I've had somebody even tell me, and I even look at it this way, that it's almost like conspiracy theory is like the ultimate form of performance art now.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's like, dude, it's like, how loud can a kid get? How loud can a show host get? How loud, spreading whatever they want to spread, but at the same time, so I think that's the trick going forward, because we're not getting rid of social media, dude. That's not happening. So what do we do to have a positive look out on the future and try to decipher some of its information? And that's where I'm kind of at, but like, and also you don't want to tune everything out of your existence. I mean, you got to be somewhat informed, especially when we're all doing shows and stuff. So it's like, I find it kind of tough, but I try to take a positive outlook on things. Great, those kids can stand up, and at least they think they have a voice. But yeah, I might be misled, but I don't know. I find it hard going forward. It's going to be hard to think what is going to be true and what isn't, because dude, the technology now, you could fake every single thing that's on the screen. A guy's head. I can have my face talking, it'll be Grim's mouth moving. Like, I mean, the shit's going to be so far undetectable. So those are the problems I have with news and stuff like that going into the future for sure. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've already got that AI that can put different actresses' heads on porno films. I mean, that stuff's crazy, and
all the fun little apps where you mimics you tracks your face and your this and that. And you're putting dog ears on there, but it's got every motion, every range of emotion your face makes.
Mm-hmm.
Snapchat it's a program just for facial recognition
software.
That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all you're doing, man.
those airport things now. They get the scanners and like it scans your. I think it like scans your face and stuff, and people are just going through. Oh, this is so great. You know, like they don't give a shit. They don't even know. You know, it's like
yeah.
I think you got mentioned earlier. You know, that whole police state stylized like prison, you know, system there. It's like it's getting more ingrained. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were making the point in the intro. I was talking about this, you know, Chief Israel in Broward County at the CNN town hall where he talked about, well, we need to give the police more power throughout the country to be able to assess a potential threat and put that person in a mental institution and all this stuff. And the whole crowd there just cheers, you know.
Yeah.
Because they're scared. They want, like Rob said, the quick and easy solution. But it's almost like you don't realize just how, you know, that will easily be abused by whoever is. Yep. Slippery slope.
It absolutely is. Because then it's like you could just throw anybody you want in there. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I made the point that, you know, they did that to dissidents in the Soviet Union. And it's just, you know, on the other hand, though, I think that maybe these kids that, you know, they're starting this new movement. And keep in mind, this is not the millennial generation. This is the generation after them. What do they call them? Generation Z or whatever the hell that means. And, you know,
yeah, because I got my Generation Y title taken away. I used to be Generation Y, and then all of a sudden I'm a millennial. Like,
that's right. That's right. And I don't even know where the lines even come in. You know, I'm still Generation X, I suppose, but it is what it is. Yeah. So I want to know from you guys. Let's talk in the general realm of conspiracy theories. What's your favorite? What conspiracy theory just makes you guys just get all warm inside?
James, you first.
Man.
God, it's James.
I don't know, man. I think
you got this, Dave. You got it.
Yeah.
Dave Cruz.
Dave Cruz.
I guess maybe if the one I would like to know the most and with the rabbit hole wise would be like ancient, like the hidden truth and the ancient stuff, you know, like the Templar stuff, you know, like going way back. And you know, I'm sure there's been a lot of like stuff being hidden to date, you know, like of how old we really are. I find that stuff to be pretty amazing, and that anything old in history like that, you know, because history is written by the rules of victory, you know, so that stuff's always going to be cast in a different light, and I'd love to see some of that old school stuff and not see it, but just find out the truth about it, man, and maybe the Egypt, you know, maybe what all went down there.
All about Antarctica. Like, there's something going down in Antarctica. Like,
down? I thought Antarctica was around the flat Earth. I'm a little confused here, guys.
He meant out on the edge, Adam.
Talk about conspiracy that pissed me off. That's one.
Earth is a complete psyop put into the conspiracy theorists just to get us distracted on something else.
Or to make us look crazy.
Either way.
Yeah.
If it's flat, if it's round, who cares? It doesn't affect your life at all. And if they are lying to us, that it just, I could care less. Like, they just need to forget about it. Same with Mandela effect. Forget about it.
Berenstein, whatever.
It's just a bunch of people not remembering.
Okay, it's Berenstein, not Berenstein, for one.
Stein, yeah.
They changed that. They changed it. Rob. The time travelers changed it.
The Mandela effect stuff I do find it interesting because it messes with my head, but I have horrible memory anyways, so.
Exactly. We all have horrible.
You gotta take a grain of salt with that stuff, yeah.
I do have. Go ahead.
No, I was saying they do pull up these pictures from old, like was it Jiffy or Jif? Like the peanut butter, whatever. It's like all these random things. Like, man, you start scratching your head,
Mind control tricks.
I'm so confused.
I'm so confused.
Reality
isn't what it seemed.
I do have my own Mandela effect story, though.
Oh,
I'll
sweet.
tell you. For some reason, it has to do with Robert Loggia. If you guys know who Robert Loggia was. Okay, I mean he was a character actor, best known for his role as the evil grandfather in Over the Top, the Stallone film.
Stallone flick, the arm wrestling one.
Yeah, the arm wrestling. Yeah,
Dude, I love this. I always remember the end of the slow motion of the fingers just like folding over the top. Yeah,
it's all in the grip, man.
It's all
in the grip.
Big.
Arm wrestling for a big rig.
Dude, it doesn't get more American than that.
He was arm wrestling for the love of his son.
Yeah.
And a big rig. A really awesome big rig. But anyway, so I can remember at some point, I can't tell you when, because I don't really know. That's how this works. But I can remember hearing that Robert Loggia died, right? I don't know why Robert Loggia. I have no idea why Robert Loggia. But I can remember hearing it. And then Robert Loggia actually died, and I was like, I thought he was already dead. I heard that he died. That's my Mandela effect story.
Okay, the only way I could think say the Mandela effect is real, and we all like CERN or something knocked us into another dimension. Like that kind of makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah, they turned that thing on, and it just started producing the parallel universes all around us.
Lines. Yeah, exactly. I can get on board.
For sure.
So, have you guys seen any of the new X-Files? The recent series?
The Magnola effect?
Yeah.
That was the last one I saw.
Oh, that episode was great, though.
Yeah, that was good. X-Files is weird now because it's like the mythology episodes are terrible. They're awful. But the standalone episodes are really good.
Yeah.
I think we kind of brought this up on the show the other day. Remember last year, the whole To the Stars, that all came out.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Tom DeLonge is going to save us all, guys.
Well, no, remember like in the last the reboot of last year, the last episode, guess what was in that last episode on the bridge? The TR-3B, dude. The UFO. Yeah, beaming down, and then also it's like I think when you look back to that, I think X-Files had a lot to do with people's interest, and this type of stuff, because that was pretty gritty back then. I mean, God, when I was in college, I was like 98, 99, 2000. It used to be The Simpsons and X-Files every Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what got me into all of this was the X-Files.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And
Beans used to
reptile
watch
people, reptilians and shit. But I was just kind of reverting to that one episode, and then all of a sudden, Tom DeLonge comes on Joe Rogan and starts pulling up YouTube videos of TR-3Bs. I'm like, he's like, yeah, type in, telling young Jamie over there to type in YouTube videos.
Yeah, and he was also sniffing a lot too, and
yeah, I know, man. I had
was on.
I had high hopes for To the Stars, but I don't know. Not that they would be a full blown disclosure thing. I did like I like the idea. Maybe they said they have this alloy or whatever. That's probably the only thing out of all of that interests me, but sounds like another business adventure.
Yeah, I think that Tom DeLonge, I think he's a true believer.
Yeah.
And they might be able to do some good. I don't look at it as a negative thing. A lot of people in the UFO community do. But
I don't see it as a negative, really. I don't know. It's just there. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Right. And he could just be one of these things that these CIA military industrial complex guys use as a kind of as a means to an end. I think there's a lot of militarization of space going on, and I think that that's a cover for it. That's just kind of my own personal conspiracy theory about it. I think
the money like Richard Dolan, if you follow his work, I mean, that's who you're gonna want to look at like for that kind of stuff.
I think Elon Musk is preparing to kill us all.
And I meant to ask you.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
What'd you think about Starman and all that?
Well, I'll put this over to Rob because he loves Elon Musk.
Oh, I think he's great.
He is working on technologies that are going to bring us out of this new dark age.
Yeah.
And save us all.
He wants to put the Hyperloop between Cleveland and Chicago. You get to Chicago in 28 minutes.
How can you not love that?
Yeah.
God, we could get a studio right in between it.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Just record Hyperloop in between our houses. That would be awesome.
He's making affordable battery packs that you can install in your house and become self-sufficient. Why are you laughing at this?
Rob just loves Elon Musk so much. I just give him a hard time about it.
As far as like people say, oh my God, okay, yeah, he shoots off this badass freaking rocket, and then immediately, of course, every freaking person out there, it's fake. The rocket's even fake.
Especially the flat earthers.
Yeah. Well, what did he say? He said, "You know it's real because it looks so
fake."
It was his quote.
Yeah, and I watched when it went up, and I watched when the fairings blew off it. I watched when it was flying around in space. Yeah, it was freaking awesome, dude. If I was Elon Musk, I would have launched my goddamn car out into space too. Why not? I don't care. Yeah, I think it was pretty sweet.
I asked my stepson about that because I think Elon Musk is one of his personal heroes, and he told me, he said
he's a good kid.
Yeah, he told me, he said yeah, I like what he did, but it's a waste of a good car.
It totally is.
Well, I think I think technology in old tech, as far as whatever you would say, fossil fuels to power something to get into space, I don't think that's going to last too much longer. I think I believe that there's way better tech out there than using fossil fuels to shoot a booster up into space. But if anything, it'll inspire the space race again. I think that's one thing that could become positive out of it.
It's putting the space race into private hands, which I think is probably what is needed for sure. Which is, oddly enough, is kind of like what you see in the movie Alien or Prometheus, right? It's like private companies that are going into space and
going to sleep for 15 years, waking up, and
Steve, what's your favorite conspiracy theory, man?
Aliens, man. I've been a sucker for aliens, even though
you just love them.
I've gone so deep down the rabbit hole that now I'm just, I don't buy the ETH hypothesis or any of that stuff. Like, I definitely think it might be something to do with time travel or consciousness or something more along those lines. But I don't know, man. I'm just always gonna love aliens and always hope that we're gonna make contact, even though I don't know we. It's always just a huge distraction, but that's the one.
So that would be your favorite pet conspiracy, is that the government is covering up the alien bodies.
Yeah, that we've made contact. They're here. You know, there's something going on.
Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Anunnaki. That's some Zachariah Sitchin stuff. I also love Hollow Earth and like reptilians. Like I don't know, man. I like them all.
See, Hollow Earth to me, okay, you know, I mean, I don't necessarily buy it, but I can believe it a whole lot more than the flat Earth.
Yeah, and well, and it ties into the breakaway civilization stuff, and that's right. Probably one of my favorites.
Right.
The fact that a group of people could have got so advanced that they were just like, screw the rest of you people, we're gonna do our own thing.
Uh-huh.
You could just watch a few episodes of like Expedition Unknown, and Josh Gates, he goes into a cave like once a week that they've only explored like 5% of it.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to think how much stuff is underneath the ground. It's crazy how big these cave systems could be.
Yeah, those Sleestack from Land of the Lost are down there.
They could be.
Well, dude, we did that show with Jeffrey, and he was doing lidar radiography scans, and of like Chichen Itza and stuff. And there's just massive cavernous underneath Chichen Itza. Like Chichen Itza is like 20 times the size of what you see, just the little part of it sticking out of the ground.
Yeah.
And these were all over the world, you know, like of these that they're doing scans of all this stuff, and there's a whole nother level to it. And then as far as the lidar and stuff, yeah, you're talking about going underground, massive cave systems everywhere. So the Hollow Earth areas, there's definitely something to the crazy vastness of caves.
That ties in with you know, missing 411 and maybe Bigfoot. Like he travels along the cave systems under North America and snatches up people. Who knows?
Oh man, we're getting deep now, no pun intended. But the, you know, well, like, you know, Walter Bosley talks about this a lot too, and if you look at the work of like Graham Hancock and you know, Randall Carlson, you know, those guys, you know, talk about an ancient civilization that in the past that they were part of they could have gone underground whenever cataclysm happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
was a lot of what Graham he originally wrote about, was with the plates, how like the ground, it just got sucked under, like all this stuff got sucked under plates, like through plate tectonics and it moving and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what they.
It's really fun to speculate about that stuff. I mean,
it is. I love it. I love wild speculation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Ever finding an answer about everything and just being able to just theorize and speculate all night long. And that's why we started a podcast.
Yeah, dude. Exactly. That was like, well, I mean, that's one thing that doesn't upset me. It's just like the hardcore. I mean, I guess there's people that do spend a lot of time and money doing research, like into writing a book and stuff like that. But to throw all your eggs in one basket and don't accept anything else, and at the same time just trash everything, dude. And like, dude, I don't know. All I can always remember, it always puts a smile on my face of just how fun it was, like learning about all this stuff. And like we always say, the fantastical. Like, I mean, didn't you find any joy out of any of this in your entire life? And then why do we all have to like rip it apart and tear it to pieces and call it bullshit?
Yeah,
that's the only bummer thing. The only bummer part of doing this a lot. You do hear a lot of stuff like that, but so, and yeah, if we can come on and talk to you guys, have awesome, funny conversations about it and about life, and just not be so negative on everybody's different points of view on what they think Bigfoot is or not, you know. Like, yeah, it's like, dude, just enjoy it. You always did when you were a kid. Why can't you now?
Right. Yeah, right. And I think nobody really knows the answers to any of this stuff.
Hell no.
So it's like, you know, I want to know the truth, but at the same time, I think that just knowing what all the questions are, I think is just as important to me. And just being able to, you know, just to have know what to sit around and think about and speculate about and kind of toss around with friends and buddies, and that's what it's all about for me. So
yeah, I love the idea of the secret space stuff. That sounds really badass to me.
Yeah.
But
Except good. I can't get on board with the Blue Avians.
Oh, fuck them. Yeah, forget them. Yeah. Frack them.
Nice Battlestar Galactica reference there.
Yes.
Nice. I like it.
That was going to be my insert F-bomb, my F word. Frack.
You could use frack all day and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So do you guys want to try to call Luke?
Yeah, dude, call him up.
All right.
The Frank Cook Award.
You got his number, Rob?
yeah, let me see if I can figure this out.
Yeah, this is some where Rob is going to shine as a producer is right now, guys.
I really enjoyed the Luke phone call at the beginning of episode 200.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Dude, that episode, that was such a good show.
Thank you.
I loved it, man. Beginning to end, it was just everything. Josh Cutchin, you had Randall there, just Dr. Future. It's just amazing.
Yeah, you guys need to have you guys have had Josh on, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, we've had Josh on.
Yeah, you should have Dr. Future on the show.
Dude, I would love to.
He's an interesting guy. And he's got a lot to share.
Yeah, dude, I love hearing him talk, and he knows so much about the Bible and stuff.
Yeah, and that and several other things too. If you could ever get him to talk about the Georgia Guidestone stuff, that'd be fun. Yeah.
He actually he has something from RC Christian or something he was saying.
Well, I think you guys, I don't know if you listened to that. That's an older show now. It's about 3 years old now. But he has a lot of material that he did for this documentary film with Chris Pinto. And Mike actually really kind of figured it out, who the guy was, where he was. This was all based on just an address that they found in the banker that bankrolled, basically, helped him out with the funds to build the Guidestones in Elberton, Georgia. So they found this address, and all Mike did was just trace it to this, not to that guy, but you can't add in a phone number.
It's telling me no. You can only have one call at a time. Do you want to hang up on the current call to start a new one? Nope.
Skype is lame. Let's just put it that way, guys. Skype is lame.
New Skype in particular is lame.
I'll just tell him, never mind. We can't call you guys. I could call him and put him on speaker.
Unless he has a Skype account.
I can ask him. I don't think he does.
Of course he doesn't. He's off the grid.
Yeah, he is. He's a free spirit, guys. You have to realize that. You can't pin him down ever.
Yeah.
No, that was awesome when I remember it was just a few back that he started showing up again, which I was pretty blown away. And then all of a sudden you guys did your year in review, and at the same time me and Grim were like, let's just do a recap of our, we'll go over our show, because we've only been doing this since I don't even, 6 months or some shit.
Yeah. It hasn't been very long.
So we did the kind of, and he's like, dude, Conspirinormal just did the same thing. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, we'll do it too.
I was telling Graham that I actually took that from one of my favorite podcasts back in the day called World of the Unexplained. Those guys used to do that. And we only started that, I think, back in end of 2015, I think.
Yeah, it's like our New Year's Eve show.
Yep.
Yeah, just keep doing it, man. I like it because and I thought it was really cool to do a little recap. We brought the gang in. Everyone had good laughs, man. Going over I'd try to play like a little clip, 10-second clip, and then we just chat for it and move on to the next one. It was pretty cool.
Good time.
Yeah. Yep. It was a good time. So, guys, tell everybody where they can find you all, where to find your podcast, and so that everybody knows how to find Cruzin with Steak.
Yeah, and what's coming up for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're on iTunes, Stitcher, any podcatcher at just search Cruzin with Steak, Cruzin, like Cruzin, like Cruz, James Cruz with Steak.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. We're on Twitter too. I'm at Grimsteak, at Cruzin with Steak, at James Cruz.
That's right, because you couldn't use Grimsteak because that was already taken.
Actually got Grimsteak before I did. I don't understand that. It just doesn't make sense.
That's a conspiracy.
It totally is.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to tell me though, Steve. How did you come by that nickname?
I think maybe in 2001 when I first started playing like Counter-Strike online, and then I got into World of Warcraft. And once I started playing World of Warcraft, that was my name.
Oh.
And it stuck with me for the past 15 or 16 years.
Okay. All right. Yeah, excellent. And guys, I'll recommend listening to these guys if you want to hear some really cool controlled chaos.
Yeah, we try, man. We have a good time. But we do regular shows too. Yeah, along with if you want, it becomes a free for all, dude. But on the group hangout shows and you can find us. We hang out on our friend Jerry Cthulhu's channel on YouTube on like Saturday nights, the Saturday Night Hive. We hang out there all over the place. We do some shows with Friends to Know, our buddy Adam Loyal down in Florida. We hang out with him. The Grimerica boys, we hang out with them. We battled them in a trivia contest. We're going up for round 3, the tiebreaker.
Nice.
Yeah, it was called Leopardy. It was awesome, man. Yeah, they beat us the second time. They beat us the first time. We got them this time, but they called a draw. So we got to go for round 3. That'll be coming up soon on the Black Budget feed. But you can email us at cruisinwithsteakpod@gmail.com, or you'll find all the links if you search our name, man. I'm on all the platforms. I just started up a Facebook. I've heard of this thing called Facebook, so I finally joined up there. And Instagram, Cruisin with Steak Pod. But
now the NSA knows who you are since you're on Facebook.
Definitely. Maybe it's allowed me to reach out.
Listen.
Yeah.
And you guys also do D&D online too.
Yes, we do. We'll stream it on Monday nights. Sometimes we've gotten our regular DM hasn't been in action for a little bit, so he'll be back soon. Then we'll probably start streaming again. But just search Grimsteak on YouTube. We have a bunch of shows up on there. And also check out Conspirinormal on YouTube. It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, I've heard. So I've heard. I recruited the Cruzin with Steak army to get the word out. So we've got 40 subscribers, guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're getting up there. I got on that YouTube.
The thing with
it is
podcasts, I don't,
a lot of people are getting banned from YouTube right now. I think InfoWars is getting banned.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Out of control. Censorship.
Yeah. We love Google and all the tech overlords on this show, guys. So we'll be okay.
Personally, I'm waiting for Google to become sentient and take over. I'm ready. I'm waiting for our robot overlords. I'm ready.
Elon Musk will use them to improve our lives.
Yes.
Well, I can't wait. I do want another future tech to look forward to is the whole. I mean, I don't really mind the whole VR thing. I mean, you could just take the goddamn helmet off. So it's just like, but it'd be really cool if we could all chill out in the same room. Stuff like that. Augmented reality.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that'll be pretty cool in the future.
That's the future of podcasting.
I would think so. I think it would be really cool, man. And but I mean, this is an awesome way to venture out. And like Marina, like we were talking to her. She's over in like Bulgaria. I've never talked to some people overseas before, but that was pretty wild. And
wow.
So that was pretty cool. And just that collective conscious, man. You know, meeting people like that and just putting good vibes out into the ether. You know, and that's what we're all about, man. Just have a good time and spread positive love and light. And we love you guys, dude.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. I think
we love you guys and appreciate you too.
It's definitely what the world needs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just there it is, man. We need more love for sure.
It's becoming a bro fest, guys.
Oh, I love you all.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much, guys. Stay on the line for us, and we're going to close out this section of Conspirinormal.
And we're back. This is always fun hanging out with other podcasters. I really enjoy these kind of shows, you know, because they're into it for the same reasons that we're into it. You know, they're just trying to have a good time, share some crazy stories, and
learn,
and yeah, share and grow and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really appreciate those guys and what they're doing, and I think it's awesome that they have us as like, I mean, that may or may not be a good thing, but they have us as their as some inspiration.
Yeah.
So I thought that's interesting. Like we've helped to spawn another podcast.
Yeah.
How about that, man?
Right. Keep it going, man. That's what I say.
That's why I wanted. Part of the reason I wanted to bring them on. You know.
And they've had some really good guests on their show too that you guys should check out. You know, Joshua Cutchin's been on there, Ren Collier that we talked about. You know, Soraya,
Red Pill Junkie's been on
Red
there
Pill
too.
Junkie, yep, Micah.
And I'm gonna have to look into getting that lady they were talking about, Marina, on. That sounded really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So that might be an international one. It sounds like, but we did try to call Luke, and
we did. Skype said no.
Skype said no. We got denied by Bill Gates one more time, and yeah,
thanks, Microsoft.
Yeah, what can you do? So, Rob, how do you feel about being in the 200s now?
Well, I feel mature, like I've grown as a person, and I feel like I'm ready to take on the next 100 episodes.
Yes. And maybe the next 100 after that. You never know.
Yeah, because you know what? The world keeps on changing. Well, the world stays the same, but our view keeps changing. And we'll be here to cover it.
Yeah, more crazy shit I'm sure will happen.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we'll have more interesting guests, which I already have some scheduled over the next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do something interesting. I have a guest scheduled. However, this guest is in the UK. So I will be talking to him at the studio at the house. And because, you know, there's a 6-hour time difference. So, and Rob is usually at work unless he wants to skip work for this. But you never know. You might be able to.
Yeah.
You could tell him, I don't want to come into work today.
That's right.
I don't want to deal with the manager of KISS today.
You know, if we had more Patreon subscribers, I could afford to do that kind of thing.
You could. Yes.
And if you went to patreon.com/Conspirinormal, you could help make that happen. Just saying.
Tell
no
them
pressure.
about it.
No pressure, guys. No pressure. But we do have a lot of cool bonus stuff there. Bonus episodes, Conspirinormal wallpapers. We've got some T-shirts. We're going to get some new T-shirts, hopefully, once these ones get sold. And, yeah, it's a great way to contribute to the show.
Right. And right now, the show pays for itself. And, you know, if we have extra money to put into the show, that's always good. Maybe Rob could start getting paid. You never know.
Yeah.
So it's all about Rob's slacking off of work and his beer money.
That's right.
So you guys got to look at it that way. But I'm going to do something a little bit different next week. Surfiel is going to join us, and we're going to do a book review. And we're going to talk about a book that we are reading, or he's already read, and I am currently reading. I'm kind of like switching between two different books right now for this episode. And so this will be something new that we're going to try, kind of like a little discussion group. And so it's going to be an experiment, but it's something that I want to kind of do from now on. So I just want to see how it goes.
Yeah, so we'll have a guest interview, but we're also going to do like a in-studio book review on a relevant topic that something that Adam's wanted to get to for a while and maybe hasn't, or something that's been on the back burner, or a guest that we haven't been able to get on or can't contact, or that has passed away, but it's still an excellent book that we think is a relevant thing that we need to share and that sort of thing.
Yep, exactly. So that'll be next, the show coming up that will be out next week.
You want to say what book it is, or do you want to surprise them?
I'll surprise them.
Okay.
We'll talk about it when we actually do the show. So I want to thank Luke for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I can't do the cricket noise.
I'm sure he says. I'm sure he says that. He has a hard life, guys. I mean, come on. It's hard being Luke. It's hard, frying fries and stuff at the barbecue place. But all right, guys. Well, I think we're going to close the show, and thank you guys for listening to episode 201, and thanks again to James and Steve from Cruzin with Steak.
Absolutely.
And we will be back next week on
Conspirinormal.
Sorry about the rapping, baby.